you've never played a Zelda game, where would I recommend you start? I think it depends on what you're looking for. It's kind of hard because Zelda has there's a vocabulary to it that I think is only really bucked by Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild still plays into it a little bit. Link's Awakening remake, I actually haven't played yet, but it does look really good. I do love Link's Awakening, so maybe check out the Link's Awakening remake. Breath of the Wild is the obvious choice. That game's just like a marvelous game to play in general. I could give you a primer. Let's do man, how do we want to do this? Let's do this. This is as always, these are very subjective, but this is after a lot of thinking about Zelda and a lot of playing of Zeldas. I think the way I've got to do this, because there's going to be some maybe unintuitive choices here. Maybe don't consider this a list of which ones to play first, but maybe hear what I have to say and then decide for yourself. Start at the top. Breath of the Wild is a double S tier game to me, but actually, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna leave Breath of the Wild unranked. I've said this multiple times during the stream. I do not consider Breath of the Wild a Zelda game in the way that I think about Zelda games. It's extremely good. It's one of the best games I've ever played, and it uses the Zelda skin, and it has the facade of a Zelda game, but it's too far removed from other Zelda games for me to rank them alongside. Triforce Heroes B tier. It's okay. It's fine. I played a bit of it. You've got to play it multiplayer, I think, to get the full impact of it. Link Between Worlds, top tier. It's a direct sequel to Link to the Past, which I would put in S tier. But I think A Link Between Worlds has also some of my favorite Zelda dungeons. That first dungeon that shows you how the 3D is really going to be utilized in the game is really cool. This was a Zelda game that I played. I have a very strong memory of playing this game because I played it primarily in Fiji when I was there DJing for schoolies who were traveling to these like Fijian resorts. And I didn't want to have anything to do with them during the day, and I was stuck on this island resort with a bunch of children. Didn't want anything to do with during the day, so I played Link Between Worlds nonstop in the stinking heat, sweating so much that my sweat was dripping onto my 3DS. I had to have a towel nearby to wipe it down. Skyward Sword I'm going to put in... It's better than Triforce Heroes. Is it though? Maybe I'll put it here. Maybe I'll put Triforce Heroes down even. I think B tier. Spirit Tracks is A tier to me, and so is Phantom Hourglass. Spirit Tracks, maybe B tier actually. I love these games in spite of some flaws that they have. I think Phantom Hourglass is definitely better than Spirit Tracks. I think Phantom Hourglass, I was saying before, the mechanic of always going back to that. There's like a main dungeon that you always go back to after you get more sand in your Phantom Hourglass. My opinion on Skyward Sword could absolutely shift as soon as I play the remake. It could go as high as A tier. Twilight Princess? I don't like Twilight Princess very much at all. I think I like it as much as I liked Triforce Heroes. This was a real breaking point for me in the series. I explained a little bit why earlier. I think it tries too hard to be Ocarina of Time, but grittier and more on the Wii. The dungeon design is lackluster. Again, I'm repeating myself, so if you've been watching the stream for a few hours, you may have heard me talk about this already, but the best Zeldas provide you with a bevy of tools that help you solve a variety of different types of puzzles. I think Breath of the Wild does it to the greatest extent, but I think Link Between Worlds also does it really well, having the ability to rent items before you buy them and take them out and try them and use them in different places. I would say that the best Zeldas give you a nail and then give you a bunch of really fun hammers to use, and each hammer feels a little bit different but still solves the problem. Twilight Princess repeatedly gives you one hammer and one nail, and as soon as you hammer in that nail, they take away that hammer and give you a new one and say you have to use this, because every dungeon you get given an item, and you only ever use it in that dungeon, and then you never use it again. And sometimes they can be really cool. They can be really cool mechanics, but there's no through line with these items that you get given. It's just a key that gets you out of that dungeon, helps you defeat that boss, and then you never touch it again. I like the character designs fine. I think they're okay. Midna's cool character. I like Wolf Link. Minish Cap, I'm going to put in A tier. I think it's really fun. I think it's the Capcom Zelda games have an energy to them that I think is pretty special, that I really like. It's one of the more like light-hearted Zelda games. There isn't really like anything world-ending going on. It's mostly just like a romp through a world. Four Swords Adventure, unplayed. Never played Four Swords Adventure. Or if I have, I don't remember. Same with Four Swords. Haven't played either of the Four Swords games. Wind Waker, S tier, double S tier? S tier. I need to replay Wind Waker. I started playing it again on the Wii U, and I was having a really good time with it, and then I put it down for some reason. I never picked it back up. I think it's one of the Zelda games I've played the fewest times. Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons are both A tier as well, alongside Minish Cap. I think these three are a trilogy all to themselves that are all really worthwhile playing, that have their own vibe and energy to them. Majora's Mask, SS tier. This is my favorite Zelda of all time. This goes way up the top. This game's really special to me. I think this game has helped me conceptualize and deal with grief and deep feelings of sadness and depression in ways that other pieces of media as a child never really spoke to me. I'll talk more about it when I stream Majora's Mask, which I will stream one day. Very special game to me. I think, number one Zelda game of all time. Yeah, there was going to be a third Oracle game. I feel like Minish Cap fills that gap, because the Oracle games both have their own world-changing mechanic. Like the Oracle of Ages, you travel back and forth through time, affecting things that way. Oracle of Seasons, you change the weather, right, of the different areas. And then Minish Cap, you change in size. But I think it spiritually fits in with what those other two games were doing in that series. Ocarina of Time, S tier. I like this game a little bit less than I like Majora's Mask. But I love it still. And I've been talking about many of the reasons why I love it all night and all day. So, Link's Awakening, SS tier. This is my second favorite Zelda game. I need to play the remake. For now, it goes in unplayed, but I imagine I'm going to love it, because I love the aesthetic and I love the original. Legend of Zelda, the original, S tier for me. I love this game. I often boot up new saves of Legend of Zelda on trains and just walk around and not try and beat it, just walk around that world, picking up items and killing bad guys and trying to refine secrets and stuff. I think this game is, again, like I showed off before, I've got my inbox copy of the game and the Famicom version of the game. Adventure of Link, however, is my third favorite Zelda game of all time. This game is super interesting in a way that other 2D Zeldas perhaps not. And I think there's a real theme that you can see in my favorites. Maybe less Link Between Worlds, but these top three really play with the Zelda formula, and I think the best Zeldas tend to. I think the best Zelda... Part of the reason why I dislike Twilight Princess so much is because I like when Zelda takes the assumptions that one would make about the framework of a Zelda and then subverts a key part of that. I think The Adventure of Link set a precedent for that being a part of Zelda. Somehow, ironically, Zelda is both itself and it's an inverse version of itself. And I think, I don't know, there's a whole thesis that you could write on that being reflected in the narrative of these games. So many Zelda games, there's a version of the world and then a dark version or a twisted version of that world. But yeah, I think that idea of the duality of things is explored mechanically in the best Zeldas. I think the fact that they came out with The Legend of Zelda and then brought out The Adventure of Link and totally changed the game mechanically and tonally, and it's barely even the same world. It's like not recognizable as the same world. I think it sets a precedent for the way Zeldas would be iterated on over time. Twilight Princess HD, never played, but I imagine if I did, I would think about it, putting it right there. Majora's Mask 3DS gets A tier. Oh man, I feel like I should maybe I'm gonna take a stand here. I love Majora's Mask, and there's a lot of reasons to play Majora's Mask 3DS if you're really afraid of the time restraints in the original. But if you want to play Majora's Mask, you play Majora's Mask. You don't need to play this version. It's worse. It's a worse version. Interesting that I would consider the adventure of like a Zelda game when you would consider it more different than Breath of the Wild. That's an interesting point. I think maybe I'm a little bit skewed from having played this as a child and falling in love with it so deeply in the early 90s alongside the original, playing them next to each other. I think that affects my attitude about it. I think more than anything, it feels wrong to me to say Breath of the Wild is my favorite Zelda game. I think that's I'm having a bit of cognitive dissonance there because it's very good. Wind Waker HD, I mean, it's the same, but looks nicer. Those go next to each other. Don't know. Ocarina of Time 3DS, I think, is a better translation of the original than Majora's Mask 3DS is. I'd put it here, B tier. But again, if you're going to play Ocarina of Time, actually, the item switching is way better in the 3DS version. Maybe it goes up here. It goes right next to it. This is just two different flavors of the same thing. I don't remember there being any great difference between how it feels to play this game than the original. I'm pretty sure from memory, it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure 3DS version is more or less the same, but with a nicer skin and easy item switching. So, hey, maybe they just go next to each other. Who knows? I'll put them there for now. Ocarina of Time Master Quest unplayed. That is the version I am playing right now, the ROM of the Master Quest edition, but I've never played the hard mode. Maybe I will one day. I'll put it down here for now. Link's Awakening DX. Oh, this is the Game Boy Color version of Link's Awakening, which is probably the better. This would be the version you'd want to play, but I'll just put them next to each other for whatever that means. Ancient Stone Tablets I have never played. This is like the online. Oh no, wait. Is it SNES like online Zelda? I don't know what that is. I don't think I've played the rest of these. Oh, Cadence of Hyrule I played, but I'm not gonna put that on a Zelda tier list. I will never play Link's Crossbow Training. I'm saying that definitively now. I will never play Link's Crossbow Training. I have never played it, and I will never play it. Some of these others I might play. I'll play this for sure. I may play this. Hey, I may even play this, but I'm telling you right now, I will never play Link's Crossbow Training. So this is it. This is the Zelda tier list. Breath of the Wild goes in its own category because it's its own thing. Top tier. Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening, Adventure of Link. These are my top 3. I guess A Link Between Worlds is my 4th favorite Zelda. I never thought about it like that. I always just remember it being really good, but now that I look at it, yeah, that's where it goes. Link to the Past, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, and Legend of Zelda, all just below it. Phantom Hourglass, Minish Cap, Oracle of Ages, and Oracle of Seasons, I think are all really fun experiences, but yeah, they go just below. Skyward Sword and Spirit Tracks have their own thing going, their own good stuff and their own bad stuff, but this is where the cracks start to show. And then we get down to here. Triforce Heroes and Twilight Princess. Triforce Heroes is like, it's candy. This is movie theater popcorn picked up from the floor. Like, it'll do the job, but don't eat it. Twilight Princess is a bad Zelda game. You know what? Goes below Triforce Heroes, I think. I think I would rather play Triforce Heroes right now than Twilight Princess. What of it?